Hello everyone, it's Andrew from GemTCG here, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about a question I got from a lot of the patrons and comments on the YouTube videos, which is, do I have a personal collection as a reseller? And then also, like, how do I manage that, like having a collection while also reselling? Because a lot of you have told me that you kind of struggle to keep a collection for yourself and like keep cards for your collection while also reselling cards. So I want to make this video to just like tell you guys about what I do personally and then also my advice for you guys. And then if you do need help starting and growing your eBay stores and TCG player stores, I have a Patreon with a link in the description. So to answer the first question, which is, do I have a personal collection and like my experience with that? The short answer is I do not anymore. And the reason why is because when I first started, like I used to, when I would see like really cool arts, not even dependent on the price, I would just keep it and put it in like a binder. And even though I wasn't taking out the most expensive cards from the stuff I was buying, and I wasn't really like focusing on building the collection, it did eat up a lot of the profits I was making because, like, let's say I bought a collection for $500, but I'm keeping like $40 worth of cards every single time. That's still a big amount. And when you're buying, let's say 10 collections a month at that price, that's $400 worth of cards that you're just pocketing. Like if you keep that same ratio, and it also puts more of a mental load for me at least because it was like, oh, do I keep this card or do I sell it and make profit? And then when I do keep it, it's like then there's that guilt of, oh, I could be selling this to make a profit, and this is holding me back a lot. And I realized this kind of later on because at first I didn't care and I didn't like feel it. I guess I didn't feel that money being lost or not reinvested. But then when I looked back and I looked back at the binder I had, mind you, the collections that I was buying and the cards I was keeping was during the peak of the market during like celebrations time. And I remember that because I bought the Greninja Gold Stars at like $6 a piece when it first came out, and I bought like 100 of them, like probably more actually. And then it tanked to like $1.50 or $2 a piece. And I remember looking back on that and I was like, wow, I just lost maybe like $300 because I was buying these cards because I wanted them and I really liked the card. And it tanked in price because it was just like, the population kept going up and the price just kept going down. So I lost a decent amount of money on that. And then I like was also collecting other cards at the time. And I would look back and I was like, wow, these cards that I paid so much for and bought them at a peak are now worth almost nothing. Not almost nothing, but like a lot lower than what I paid for them. So that made it a lot harder for me at least to buy cards to then keep them, which sucks because like just to in case you guys are curious, my favorite cards were like Blaziken, Blastoise, Sceptile, and like Scyther maybe. I don't know. I had a ton of like from that era of cards. I really liked them because that's when I was playing it the most, and those are the cards I would keep a lot of. But those are also pretty expensive cards. So it's like when I would buy a collection that had that card, I would keep it, and that would be usually the more expensive card from there, which would eat up a lot of the profits that I was talking about. But then back to what I was talking about, when I would buy these cards and then it tanked, and then having noticed that when I looked back on it like a year later, I was like, I can't keep doing this, and I can't afford to keep cards for myself for my collection, which I'm glad I made that decision because one, it's made it a lot easier. I don't have to like go through a collection now and think, oh, do I want this card for myself or do I want to sell it? And it's like a mental strain every single card you're looking at. You're thinking that question and it ends up taking longer because you have to debate every single time you're looking at a card. So it slows you down and it eats up your profit because you're buying these cards that you're not going to sell. So that's why I stopped doing that. And then on top of it slowing you down and just eating the profits is also you have to like keep up more space for it, and you run into that risk of not only are you locking up money, but if you're buying these cards for your collection during a peak like what we're in right now, you are at a higher risk of that card collapsing in price. Like if you look at the illustration rares from even from like 2 months ago to now, they're down like 50% on what they were. And if you were to buy them then you would just be net negative 50%. So it's a pretty big deal. Now, another thing on why I am glad I made the decision is because I personally enjoy going through these collections and then flipping all these cards and just having it in my inventory so that like if I ever get bored, I just want to look through what I have, I can do that and I can see which cards, like I treat that as my collection. Like my inventory is my collection in a way. And to me that's more fun than just seeing the same cards in a binder that I have tucked away that I check like or used to check very rarely. And yeah, I don't know, just going through different collections and then flipping them is more fun to me. Now, what I would recommend to you guys that are on that like struggle to which one to choose, like do I choose my collection or do I just list everything? I would recommend, honestly, if you enjoy it, definitely do it because most of you guys joining like the reselling part is because you are in the hobby already and you're already collecting cards. But if that's your thing, then definitely keep building up your collection and like keep a PC. Obviously, don't spend $1,000 on cards and then keep 900 of it or keep some crazy amount. Like you're gonna want to keep a, you know, a decent amount, but not enough to where you can't recycle the capital and repeat the process. Like one analogy is this one, it's like you can go buy a shoe for $40 and then you're out $40. Or you could buy a shoe for $20, sell it for 40, and then you buy that shoe again for $20 and you basically got it for free or something like that. I'm sure if you've heard it, you would understand, but that's kind of how you have to think about it is like buy a collection. Let's say you're paying 70%, buy that collection to then make a profit. And then whatever you can keep without losing money is a good thing in my opinion. Like if you can get $1,000 worth of cards for 700, and then you sell enough to where you get that $700 back, and you have like 10 cards left over, keep them if you want. Like especially if those are cards that you like, definitely do that. But if you're buying a collection for that's worth 1,000 and you're paying 700, then you're keeping like a $500 card from there. That's gonna definitely hurt your business and it's gonna slow you down a ton and will probably lead to you not scaling it at all because you're going to be so focused on building your collection rather than flipping the cards. And obviously, it's easier for me to say this because I've never been a big time collector. Like, I used to collect a little bit when I was a kid with my friends. We used to like trade and stuff, but it was always like common, like basically bulk cards at the time. So it's easier for me to say this because I didn't start it as a collector. But if you guys started as a collector and now you're going into the reselling part, it's definitely harder. And I would say do what you think is best. If you enjoy doing it, definitely keep doing it. But if you don't really care for it and you just would rather buy and sell cards, because some people in the comments they were saying like it's actually fun doing it, so they don't mind. So if you're in that boat, then definitely focus on like flipping the cards rather than keeping them. Like for example, I used to have some sports cards that I used to collect, and it was a ton of just like rookies, and it would look like this. But to me, this is cool and all, and I guess I mean can't go wrong with the Lions because Michigan, and it does look cool having them in binders like this. But personally, I think having them like this is a lot cooler for me at least because I can always just like go here and look at what base set cards do I have and then pull out this one or go to like a trainer gallery and look at this. So I guess just do what you prefer to do, and like if you ever like just have like cool cards like that that you could look through, a bunch of alternate arts. So I don't know. To me personally, I think just having them like this, to where they're open and you're always going through them, is just easier and better overall. And then one thing I forgot to mention is that like if you do like collecting and you think like you don't want to sell a card, but like you don't want to sell it for what the current price is, you could always just list it at a very high price. So like let's say the card is worth $10. and you don't want to sell it for $10, you could just list it for like $20 or even $30. So that way, if it sells, like you're still making a huge amount of money compared to what it's actually worth, and you don't have to deal with that burden of like, oh, I only sold it for $10 and I really like the card. So that's what I would recommend doing. But of course, do what you think is best for your situation. Yeah, that's my advice on this, and my personal scenario is like I don't collect anymore. And I guess one other thing is if we're in like a down market where cards are just like very cheap compared to what they used to be, then I would say it's smarter to buy cards to collect. But if you're in a peak like we're in now, definitely don't prioritize buying cards for your collection because there's a much higher downside than if we were during like a 2023 era time. So yeah, that's my opinion and advice. I hope you guys found this video interesting, and I'll see you all in the next one.